Hello and welcome, members of the Wandaverse. I'm Hannah,
And I'm producer Nick.
and you're listening to Into the Wandaverse, your one and only source into all things Scarlet Witch and friends. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I hope you all enjoyed the Thunderbolts review that we put out last week.
Yeah, it was kind of I kind of can't wait to go see it again. It's been a bit of a busy cinema season, so Mission Impossible, the new Wes Anderson, Final Destination. So I'm hoping to catch it in the cinema again before it disappears.
Yeah, I'd like to see it again as well, and I also want to see Lilo and Stitch. Um,
I mean, everybody sings Lilo and Stitch at the moment.
Obviously, well, yeah, you're like it's a busy cinema season, and you didn't mention
I didn't.
what's probably going to be the second billion-dollar film of this billion-dollar film of the
Yeah.
series, of the year, but.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, so
Well,
we
but
we
we're, different strokes for different folks.
We mentioned in that episode that this, we'll send you a little catch-up episode to kind of let you know, guys, where we've been. So, um, it's been a bit of an odd one for us, isn't it? Like life stuff has kind of gotten away, and you know, it's we finally managed to come back, and we've got a pretty good structure planned out that we're gonna do for you guys, listeners.
So we've got a schedule of what we think we want to cover. But if you guys have ideas, please let us know. Please give us all the feedback in the world. If you look at the little description of this podcast, there is a text us button. You can hit that and you can tell us what you think, what you want to see, what you want to hear, because we've always tried to do anything that you guys have requested, like House of M. We did a Thunderbolts review. We'll continue to kind of review every Marvel movie that comes out, and we do read every single piece of fan mail well, it's called fan mail. That's not me being big-headed, I promise. We do read every single piece of mail that comes in the box. We had the loveliest message recently, which I'm gonna read because it meant so much to me, and I read this like all the time when I'm sad. Just trying to find it in the inbox. Nick, you can talk.
Yeah, so please get hold of us. It's the little text me button on the podcast notes. Or you can send us emails on into the wonderverse at gmail.com. Is that
No,
correct?
contact at intothewonderverse.com.
Contact at intothe.wonderverse.com. See,
It's
we're more
it's
official
in
than I thought we were.
it's linked in the bio.
It's linked in
This
the
is the
bio.
message. Thank you so much for sending this. Hi, I'm a certified Wander obsessor and a huge fan of the podcast and all the Wanderverse social media. My favorite part of the week is listening to your voices, discussing my exact opinions on my favorite character in the world, whom my affection for is totally heterosexual and definitely not at all mentally ill. Often while I'm creating other content about her, I never thought I would find someone who knew as much or cared as much about Wanda Maxwell as me, but I did. So thank you so much for doing what you do. I would like to ask if we have a name as Wanda fans. Maybe you could come up with one. Lots of love, P from Tallahassee in Florida. And I want to say that we're the Wandaverse. Like I consider you guys all to be a part of the Wandaverse. I kind of picked the name because I wanted it to be inherently inclusive because I know as much as I am maybe the number one craziest Scarlet Witch girl, there are many Scarlet Witch girls and boys and theys out there who and also, John Higgins, writer of the 1994 run, has started to referring to the Wandaverse, and he calls himself a part of the Wandaverse. So he's definitely like doubled down on that. We are the Wandaverse.
Yeah, it's I mean it was pretty cool to like hear him say that and you're all right. I think, Wonderverse, I think is pretty good name for it, isn't it? Like you're all part of the same collective fan group, and I think it's a pretty nice name for you all. So, I think while that's kind of come up, I think it's best to. I think first off, thank you very much for that incredible
Message.
message. It was an incredible message. I mean, it's such a nice sentiment. I didn't realize that my ramblings and Hannah's incredible knowledge were um, gonna reach so many people, but it's kind of it's really great to see, and it's really great to see this kind of reach out to you guys, and hope you are enjoying the content. While that's kind of, mentioned the John Higgins interview, so a little bit of kind of background behind the scenes. We recorded the interview once, and we had a load of technical issues, and John Higgins was so nice to record with us again. And lo and behold, we have technical issues a second time. So we will get out a version of the interview out to you in some form. Trying to work out what the best way that's going to be, whether that be in the snippets from what we can kind of recover, whether that can be reading out what he said. But you will get that John Higgins review in or John Higgins interview in some fashion. It's just trying to figure out what the best way is to do that for you, the listeners. I can only apologize for the fact that this has not gone the way we wanted it to, but needless to say, any kind of technical hitches that we're going to have that had in the past, making sure that that's not going to happen for any other interviews or any other segments that we're going to do. So, speaking of like interviews and stuff, you did an interview recently.
I did. If you guys are like craving more content with me and you'd actually like to see my face in a long form content, because obviously we don't put out our face in here, I was lucky enough to guest over on the Heroic Conversations podcast and do a lovely interview over with that with him. He is so kind and so sweet, and you should follow him. And the full interview is available on YouTube, Heroic Conversations. I will link it in the description. It is a full hour, and one of you has already sent me a video where you edited together every time I put my hair behind my ear. So if you love making compilations like that, this is a gold mine for it because I was very nervous. And so I put my hair behind my ear a lot of times. So if you're dying to make more edits like that, this is perfect content for that. I talked about Wanda, I talked about the Fantastic Four, talked about the collection, the whole 9 yards. You should go listen to it. He's so sweet, and support him. He's had some amazing guests on. He's had voice actors from Rivals, people from toy companies. Go and give it a listen. It's a really great podcast.
Yeah, no, it was I mean, I was sat next to you and kind of lurking in the background, and he's a really great interviewer, and I've got to say, like, watching him interview you and you kind of get to say what you wanted to say to a new audience was kind of great to see. So, I mean, I guess speaking of new audiences, you wanted to shout out a particular country.
Yes. Thank you so much to the Netherlands. I actually know one of our listeners there. It's Jamie. She's lovely. She's actually the where I got one of my Wandavision props from. But you guys are consistently the first people to download the podcast episode. Doesn't matter what time of the day I post that episode. The Netherlands, you are the most dedicated. You are number one, our number one listeners every time. So we just got to give our props. In the first three listens is always two people for the Netherlands. So. I want to see if like America has our top stats at the moment. Our listener base is the strongest in America. So come on, UK, fight back, fight back to our homeland. Um, but yeah, thank you so much to everybody that's listening, and we really appreciate it. Um, but yeah, thank you for all the support everywhere. Do we want to get into some news?
Yes, we can do some news. We can
Okay,
get into it. There's
so it's
a
been a while since we did news. Um, not every episode now will contain news because we're going to try and film some of these well in advance. So, if you need the most up-to-date news, catch it on social media. But Doomsday has been pushed back. No one saw that coming.
I mean, yeah, no one saw the fact that this massive cast and massive amounts of money being poured into a production was going to take longer than they said to make whatsoever. Surely, no. Yeah, push back to the same day as June Messiah. So that's going to be a fun day.
Doomsday.
June's Day, yeah. No one's going to use that. Um, yeah, what do you think? What do you think about this Doomsday pushback?
I think it makes sense. I think that everybody said there was no way they were going to be able to put this together in the amount of time. And we know they're not filming Secret Wars and Doomsday back to back either, which feels crazy. Like, with Wicked, they filmed both parts at once. But I
Yeah,
guess it's gonna mean when is I don't even know when production is scheduled to start on Secret Wars.
yeah, I don't know when that is either, but like obviously they're still shooting Doomsday, they're still casting Doomsday, aren't they?
Well, yeah,
Um,
apparently they haven't got a complete script yet. allegedly.
really puts faith in
I'll be honest, right before we started this recording this podcast episode, I was crashing out because there was, again, you can never super believe scoopers. Like, that's, number one thing to learn is not always to believe scoopers, but one, a relatively well, one of the better scoopers said that Marvel had a plan where Magneto and Wanda would come together in the style of X-Men and the Wolverine, which, as you know, is like waving a red flag at a bull when it comes to me because that's like my show, and I can't. If that's true and they've gone in the opposite direction, I fear it's over for me.
don't like that. I mean, again, you got to take these scoopers with a great bit of grain of salt, really, haven't you?
Hmm. I mean, we've heard every single from scoopers in the past, like we know that Hugh Jackman I just kind of think that Hugh Jackman and Deadpool are in it because Domino was seen on the set of Deadpool. Not Deadpool, Doomsday.
Zazie Beats.
Hmm.
Huh. Didn't know that. Didn't know that. I mean, she is an X-Man, so um
And Vision Quest is filming.
Vision Quest is filming. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty a good one, a pretty exciting one for us. Being in the north of Great Britain, presumably from what we've heard, a certain Marvel production, namely the aforementioned Vision Quest, is going to be shooting around near us, from what we can work out.
Yeah, the structure of this show and where or when it's filming is now becoming murkier and murkier because they showed a teaser clip. They showed a sort of like a sizzle reel at the Disney upfront recently that included a singular shot of White Vision. At first, we were teased like there was footage from Vision Quest shown, but it was just a shot of White Vision. Vision Quest is allegedly going to feature the journey of Vision going from being a totally cold, detached android to more humanistic again, and we're going to allegedly see his family, as in not the family that we're used to within the MCU, but in a comic called The Visions, which is going to come up a lot in this episode. He made himself a family of androids, and apparently Viv Vision is going to be in this, as well as Jocasta and maybe Vin Vision and Vivian, not Vivian, Virginia. Yes, they're all called Vivs of some descript. So hopefully, that will be filming up in Edinburgh. We've possibly heard. Again, they're being very mysterious because some people are saying it's going to wrap in June, but that seems unlikely. Even if it truly has been filming since March, it feels unlikely that it will be done filming, and we would have had so little leaks. Like, because when Wonder Man was filming, which was a relatively low key production, we had way more set pictures. I mean, we can't breathe for Jessica Jones set pictures right now. I mean, not Jessica Jones, Daredevil Born Again, but pictures of Kristen Ritter
Maybe
as
maybe
Jessica Jones.
maybe the whole like set pictures thing. I mean, because there was some set pictures kind of. So a guy broke onto the set of Doomsday, and I know the timeline doesn't quite work out with this because that was quite relatively recent. But I don't know, something kind of, maybe they're kind of locking down a bit more on trying to get
I think
pictures
it's
out there.
obviously the reason there's so many from Daredevil is they're filming in the middle of New York. There's not a lot you can do
Yeah.
when you're filming in the middle of New York. Like they know there's going to be pictures there. It's like how when they filmed Infinity War on the streets of Edinburgh, there were hundreds of press pictures because you can't actually really block off massive cities entirely, is how it works. But we'll see. We'll have to see. I'm excited. We will be covering Vision Quest on this show. And the last bit of kind of major news that we've had is obviously that we now know that Nev Campbell has been cast as Polaris, well, as the voice of Polaris in X-Men 97, which implies that the Magnet family are going to have a big role in season 2, which we kind of had implied before because they were in the ending of season 1, and before being fired, Beau DeMayo had spoken about wanting to include Wanda and Pietro in the show.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, I mean, we are pro Nev Campbell in the Scream universe. I mean, I love the Scream movies. I don't know about the new one because of behind the scenes stuff, but like we like Nev Campbell. So I mean, in terms of like voice acting, it's a kind of a different gig. So what do you think about this?
I mean, she's barely done any voice acting, so I guess we'll just have to see how it goes. Like, I don't have anything against her playing the role. I just, for me, it's very much I'm excited to see Polaris be included. And I am glad though that she's not playing live action Polaris because I'm really hoping they're going to cast the X-Men at a more
Young
college,
age.
at least college age. Nothing against Nev Campbell and her acting, but more about where I want the X-Men to be, you know?
I mean, there's actually been kind of some rumblings about that. I don't know if you wanted to dive into that, like the rumors.
I think we'll come back to that another time. We've got a lot to cover in terms of like maybe we'll come back to once X-Men we're apparently going to get our first trailer for X-Men 97 soon. So we'll maybe come back to the rumblings about all that
Sure,
when we get a first trailer.
sure.
Because the other huge news this week and what the bulk of this episode is going to be about is the fact that the first issue of the new Vision and Scarlet Witch comic run dropped this week. Um Still written by Steve Orlando, who's been writing Wanda since 2023, cover artwork by Russell Dontman, and interiors by Lorenzo Tomata. And I just want to say, before you read this comic run, even if you've been reading the Scarlet Witch 2023 run, here are some recommendations for this so that it makes the best sense possible and you get the best reading experience. I think you should definitely read Tom King's The Visions. I think you should read that in general before you see Vision Quest because I think it's going to be highly relevant. I think you should read the Vision and the Scarlet Witch run from 1982 because it's this is throwing back to that a lot. I think you should read the Avengers V3 issue 11 from 1998 because again, super relevant, and then obviously the Scarlet Witch run from 2023 onwards. And that is my major recommendation in terms of before starting this comic. Um, but before we even get into it, I want to say that I think this is the strongest Scarlet Witch comic we've seen, first entry, in a long time. I really got to give Steve Orlando his flowers here. I loved this. I thought it was so engaging and so fun. Nick, what did you think?
So in terms of the background reading, the only one I've read is the Visions, the Tom King comic from was it 2016? Was it?
Yes, I want to say
Yeah,
2016.
2016. That was the only one I'd read previous to this. I did see your TikTok advising to what to read, before reading this,
But
and
you ignored me.
I did an executive decision where I thought it would be more interesting if I go into it a little bit more blind rather than having all
Mm-hmm.
the kind of all the background knowledge, just to see, because different perspectives. Because at the end of the day, there are going to be listeners that are going to listen to this review and be like, well, it's great when you all have all the background knowledge, but what's it like to read when you don't have the background knowledge? As somebody who didn't have the background knowledge, apart from the visions thing, I thought the art was excellent. I thought the design of Wanda here is really cool, especially the first kind of panels we see her in. She's kind
Mm-hmm.
of got this kind of like cosmic effect on her, which is really, really quite cool.
That's the
Um,
Daunterman design.
the Dortmund design.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I thought it was pretty, it's setting up um, a pretty intriguing premise. Also, I mean, I don't know if you want to do like a spoiler free or spoiler section, but like it kind of, it goes in a direction where I'm thinking, oh, that's quite bold for a first issue. And I don't know if that's because it's a limited run. How many run issues did you say
It's
this?
five. It's only a 5 issue run, so yeah, they've got to get through it quick and quick and clean. I would
Quickly.
say we're not going to do a full spoiler free run here, but I would absolutely advise that you go out and you buy this comic. The absolute most important thing that you can do to make sure that we continue to get Wanda like comics and content is to vote with your feet and when possible buy. Either you can get it digitally from Amazon, which is not my preferred way, but I know it's the easiest access. But in the description of this episode, I will link both where you can buy it in the US and the UK, and the one of the shops that I'm going to recommend also ships to Europe. So, and if there's any other place you want to know where you can buy the comic, you tell me and I will try and desperately find you a link because I just believe that we should be buying these comics and making sure that we, you know, like that we are showing how much we love original art and original ideas. And this podcast is the most pro art podcast you can find.
I mean, we're also very, very pro independent comic book shops as well. I mean, I grew up in a town where we still there an independent comic book shop, and Tony, bless him, like you ask him if he can bring in a comic, you find out, oh, this comic is doing it's coming out. He will do his best to go and get it, and I'm pretty sure that any independent comic book shop, you ask them, can you stock this? If you ask them if they don't have it on the shelves to find you, get you a copy of Vision and the Scarlet Witch, they will do that for you. So, and obviously that then makes Marvel more interested because they'll look at the numbers and see that, more people are asking for it to be put in. So, you know, do that if you're not looking at a Forbidden Planet or anything like that.
And comic books are not that expensive. They're like £2.65. Like we're not talking
They're pretty.
crazy money.
They've been pretty inflation proof, to be fair. I mean, touch wood. When I was buying comics, when I was a teenager, they were about the same kind of price. So, yeah, pretty inflation proof. It's turning out to be. But yeah,
Right.
do you
So
want to
we're
get it? Do you
gonna
want to, yeah? Do you want to get into? Do you want to get into the
we're gonna
actual
do a
plot of the
recap now.
issue?
So this is just spoilers. This is just spoilers now. So come back when you've read it, or just enjoy us talking about it. But support art. Anyway, so the premise of this comic book is that mysterious doors are appearing all over the world, kind of like Wanda's Red Door, the last door, which is where you go help for the hopeless, except that they say these doors are dark doors that lead to heaven. They're popping up all over the world. Meanwhile, Wanda is speaking to the powers that be. If you don't know who the powers that be is, this is another. I briefly, they are the force that controls all things mysterious and magical and unexplainable in the Marvel universe. They were only introduced about 2 years ago in a comic called Gods and have become relatively significant now. And I'm interested to see how their relationship with Wanda is going to be. I'm pretty sure they were introduced in a Hickman run, so we'll see where that goes. But I'm doing a video on them for my TikTok, so I'll do a full kind of depth into how it works. But what you need to know is that Wanda is speaking to the powers that be because she's looking for Chthon, and because the powers that be controls all things weird and magical, she's like, "Hey, could you like help me find him?" And the powers that be is like, no, because he was an original black magic user, and I don't want to." And Wanda's like, "Okay, you can not help me, but you better not help him, okay?" And while she's having this conversation, Darcy's like, hi, Wanda. Unfortunately, a dark door has appeared near the shop, so could you come and help me?" And Wanda goes back to the shop, and a bicycle gang called the Dead Wings are like, "We want to go through the door." And Wanda's like, "I wouldn't. It looks like it's not leading to good places, so maybe don't." But they're determined to do it, so they power up on Red Bull gives you wings, you know?
I mean, it's more like red blood. I think it's like it is. Yeah, I guess the gasoline can that he's pouring into his mouth, and then they kind
Mm-hmm.
of turn into these. I don't know, what are they, like skull
It's
creatures?
giving discount Ghost Rider.
Discount Ghost Rider, yeah.
And then Wanda's trying to fight them off. She's kind of got it handled, but then the Vision shows up, and helps Darcy out and talks about how he's been working on his density and everything. They defeat this gang pretty easily, but one of the gang members manages to get through the door. Wanda's like, "Hey, I could have handled that." And Vision's like, "But you shouldn't have to handle it alone, Wanda dear. Also, as I told Pietro, I keep track of the people in my life by watching the news, I think." And then he's like, basically, the doors are calling to people, like with the voices of people they've lost. And you've lost like a lot of people. So I just wanted to check that you weren't gonna potter through one of those doors. And she's like, pot kettle. you've also lost like your wife and your son, not the boys, not the twins. The fact that Vision has the audacity to mention the twins when I don't think he's interacted with them for like 2 decades now.
Yeah, bit of a deadbeat dad.
Um, and just the way he said that, I was like, I mean, okay, well, but he points out, see, this is a throwback to the Tom King run, but I can't stop thinking about this because Vision. So at the end of the Tom King run, so Vision had made a wife called Virginia using Wanda's brainwaves, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the Tom King run, we see that Vision is trying to build a body for her, for Virginia, to come back
Yes.
again. And that was over 10 years ago now. That's like 15 years ago that happened. Maybe 10, you know? So did it just take him that long to build, or are we never mentioning that body again?
Um, I mean, this comic is called Vision and Scarlet Witch. So do you think like maybe that will come into it a little bit? We see a bit of Viv, don't we?
We see a
In
bit of
this.
Ev, who has so there were twins. I don't know if they were twins or if they were brother and sister. Like, it doesn't really matter. They were both born at the same time anyway, because they were made from Virginia and Vision's brainwaves. So these are brainwave children made from. They are kind of related to Wanda, but kind of not. She's always tried to sort of be motherly to Viv, but Viv rejects her because Wanda never gets a break with her kids. Um, but Vin died, as did Virginia, but Viv lived, and so did their dog, Sparky, who is what Sparky from Wandavision was based on. Sparky is a robo dog in the comic universe. And Viv has been a member of the Champions. It was rumored that she's been cast for Vision Quest,
Okay.
so hopefully we might get to see her. She's been around. So we see Vision heads home and says goodbye to Viv, who is off on a mission with Sparky for 4 days. They're calling the. We also see the guy who went through the door, meeting his dead uncle, who says, "Welcome to the grave realm," and says, "Unfortunately, only the dead are allowed here," and then murders the guy. Murder.
Murder.
Um, and Vision is like thinking, he's like racking his brains, like who, because Wanda kind of thought maybe Chthon was behind the doors, and Vision's thinking, and he's like, somebody made a mockery of Wanda's door. Who could it be? Who could it be? What if it was the Grim Reaper, Eric Williams, who is the brother of Wonder Man and is going to be featured in the Wonder Man series? Um, so Eric Williams, we're going to go into it super briefly, is a long-term Avengers villain. First featured in 1968, so we're talking like he only debuted 4 years after Wanda. He's old. So Eric and Simon Williams are brothers. So Simon Williams is Wonder Man, and it's kind of a classic tale where Eric was the bad brother, bit of a psychopath, busy torturing the cat, and Simon's the good brother. So when they got older, Eric gets into the mob and petty theft, and Simon takes over their family business called Williams Innovations. Williams begins to fail, partly due to Stark Industries, because it's always Stark Industries' fault. And so he embezzles money in order to invest in the business, gets caught, and then is put in prison, but broken out of prison by, guess who? Baron Zemo, and
Oh,
is then transformed into Wonder Man by like a special serum. Um, However, Baron Zemo, and he basically, they were like, he's like, you can be Wonder Man, but you have to kill the Avengers, basically. And what he didn't know is Baron Zemo put a poison in the stuff that turned him into Wonder Man to make as a failsafe to make sure that he wouldn't turn against him, that he would have to kill the Avengers. But unfortunately, Simon has always had a conscience, and so he doesn't kill the Avengers, and so he dies. If one thing, as we know, one thing about Wonder Man is he's gonna die. That's one
he
thing he's gonna do is die. So Eric finds out that Simon has died, and he gets a scythe weapon, like a huge like death scythe, defeats the Avengers, but Black Panther like overwhelms him. He's faced off against the Avengers like a bunch of times, but his complicated familial relationships with Vision and Simon have always been the most important, kind of one of the core pieces of his character. Because if you remember, the Vision was made with Simon Williams as brainwaves. So they so basically the first time Eric faces off against the Vision as a part of the Lethal Legion, he can't kill the Vision because he has Simon's brainwaves. And then he at one point offered to put Vision's mind into Wonder Man's body that he was keeping preserved. Why, we don't know. But and it kind of goes on like this. Simon and Eric have gone through complicated relationships. At one point, Eric tried to kill both Simon and the Vision. And at this point, Simon's pretty anti the Vision. He's pretty much in you're not real. You're not my brother. You're not my brother and I don't like you. And he was actually killed by Virginia in the Tom King run.
Yes, I remember that.
However,
However,
um, basically, as Vision is suddenly realizing this might be connected to Eric, and he's like, "Hey, Wanda, I think this might be Eric's work." Also, fun cameo from Alice Wu, as in Alice from Agatha All Along. Eric pops out and is like, "Hey, it's me. I'm still awful, and now I'm like even more awful." Yeah, they're fighting. I'm not going to get into the technicalities of the fight because read the comic, you know. But it's pretty clear that Eric has powered up, and he mentions having that he created the Grave Realm, and that it's the version. He mentions a bunch of different versions of heaven, including Valhalla, and he's like, "You're not welcome in my heaven," and he just keeps calling Vision like robot slurs. He's a slur heavy guy in this. Eric kind of he's like shown some pretty white supremacist sort of racisty background in his story life, so he's not a guy we stan. How they're gonna handle that in the new Wonder Man TV show where both him and Simon are black will be very interesting.
yeah,
Um,
I just looked up who was going to play him actually. So where are we? Demetrius Gross, who's best known to be he was in TV show Banshee, he was in Justified, he was
mhm.
also in everybody's favorite one season show Heroes that lasted for just for one season and no more than that. He was in Westworld, Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a really good actor. I'm really excited to see Wonder Man. Eric's just awful, so I'm curious how they're gonna handle him generally.
yeah,
He's like a really, really bad dude.
yeah,
Um, Basically he's implying that he created, but both him and Wonder are pretty sure. I mean, Vision and Wonder are pretty sure that and we kind of know from the descriptions of this comic that there's some other big bad giving Eric the juices to be doing all this, to do this much. And then just as Wanda arrives, Eric fully just rips the Vision in half, basically, and poisons his system so that the Vision can't be repaired. And Vision and Wanda have this very touching moment where he's like, "Take care of Viv." And she's like, "I reject this whole you dying gig. I'm not doing that." And we see the return of her staff, and she basically stops the Vision from death. But when she finishes doing that, it turns out he's the White Vision. As in, last time we had White Vision, he forgot all of his memories, and that's how he got the divorce the first time around. So,
What's the
you know,
can you go through the significance of it? Because right at the last panel, he says, and I quote, "What the hell did you do to me?" Can you explain any like possible significance to that particular quote?
I don't think so. It's just kind of a reaction to what's happened. Obviously, we don't know what he's experiencing yet, but the time he was White Vision before, they literally ripped him apart like nut by bolt, wire by wire. There's a horrific panel from the original Vision Quest run where Wanda comes in, and it's very similar to the scene that we saw in WandaVision, when she walks in and they have the Vision's body
Yeah, there
on
was a
the
lot of
table.
there was a lot of side by side
But worse.
panels going on.
Honestly, the
Yeah,
comic is more horrific.
yeah,
Um, so basically it's a callback to that, and obviously that wasn't Wanda's intention. Um, so we'll just have to see where that it's a really good cliffhanger. Like you said, it's a very bold move for a first issue. Um, but obviously we only have 5 issues to do this in. So
yeah,
um I think that this comic had a much more intense story driven feel to it. It feels like there is a plot having been put down. And I love how many callbacks this has. One of my problems with the Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch run was I felt that we weren't facing villains that we didn't have themes that really drew back to the twins. We weren't on Wundagore Mountain. We weren't talking about the Knights of Wundagore. It wasn't the High Evolutionary. It didn't feel like it was really about them. Whereas with this, I feel that this is very much tied to Wonder and Vision, and both of the characters' histories, especially bringing in. It's nice to see Virginia and Vin mentioned, honestly, because again, obviously Viv has been around, and Viv is a super interesting character, and I hope that she's in this run more. Like, I wrote a list of things I'd like to see, and I wrote the twins as in Billy and Tommy. I wrote Simon, obviously. Vin, as in I think that we might see Vin come back in this run, possibly. And obviously the Magnet siblings, so that's Polaris and uh Quicksilver,
yeah.
were my list of wants to see. How about you?
Um, good question. What do I want to see in the next kind of issues? I kind of just wanted to keep going as bold as they've been kind of been going. Like the art is really stunning in this. Like I'm kind of literally looking at it, and I'm at the moment, and Lorenzo Tomato is the artist on this. Honestly, is it's pretty like incredible.
He's been pretty
He's
consistently the artist for most of the Scarlet
yeah.
Witch runs.
And then you got Ruth Redmond, the color artist, and I thought the
Hmm.
color in it is, is pretty great. I don't know. I just kind of want to keep them just keep being as bold. They got 5 issues. Like do something with it, and it seems like the first issue is, fulfilling that promise. So that's just what I want. I just kind of want a nice. I want to say
I
nice.
just
I want
really
to.
love how many callbacks there were in this. Like, it made me. I picked up the Tom King run almost immediately after I finished this comic, and I also went through how many times we've had to kill Eric off. Or Wanda actually once brought him back to life as well by mistake.
Yeah.
The Williams brothers just love to die. And honestly, that's how Vision proves that he's a true Williams brother, because how many times has he died? You know? It's really giving. Um but yeah, I really hope that we're gonna get some kind of uh look into Virginia's fate, because it's been 10 years now. Time to get old girl up and going. I do wonder, since we are digging so much into characters that we're going to see in the MCU, if we're seeing any MCU synergy here. Like, I'm curious if they've been asked to include Eric, obviously, because he's popping up in Wonder Man. It's gonna be really weird if he's sympathetic in Wonder Man. It's gonna be super weird. Um,
Because he's terrible.
and and obviously, yeah, and obviously the Vision family, because there've been a lot of rumors that they're going to be in Vision Quest. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if that's why we're seeing so much of them. But I'm not complaining, because I am happy to see more of Viv. I'd happily see Vin and Virginia back. I always thought it's weird that they've never been revived, but I guess they just weren't plot relevant at the time. But I really do think this is one of the strongest entries in Orlando's run, and this is kind of what I've been looking for. Is these, like, Wanda and Vision are like, well, Wanda's 60 years old. She's got so much history, and this feels like it's really drawing on a lot of that history.
It does feel like it's drawing on her popularity. I guess, is this, am I right in thinking this is the first Vision of Scarlet Witch comic since WandaVision?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've appeared together since, but this
As
is the
in,
first one that's made it romantic.
yeah,
Like,
like,
this is the.
title like Vision and the
Yes.
Scarlet Witch. Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's the first one since the 80s runs.
Yeah, because like a lot of Marvel comic fans, you say Vision and Scarlet Witch as a comic book run, they automatically think of the 80s. They think of the wedding, they think of the romance and the twins and what have you. So, um, that's pretty much what the popular kind of knowledge is. So it is drawing on that quite a bit. And as you've been kind of saying throughout the review, like it's drawing on a lot of history. And as somebody, like I said, like my only kind of knowledge of this is the Vision Tom King series, and no real spoilers, but at some point, we are going to be covering the 80s series, so I will get that kind of backstory a lot more, in a lot more detail, just from after away from what you've told me. So I
Hmm.
feel that I feel that this I think that this particular issue is a very very strong first issue, and um yeah, no, the art's great, and that's kind of what I look to be honest. So.
Well, Steve Orlando, come on the podcast, please. Come and talk to us. Come talk to us, Steve. But yeah, I am really happy with this. Obviously, there'll be 4 more issues coming out once a month. The next one obviously will be in June. As I said, I'm gonna knock links to either subscribe or buy these comics individually because again, this isn't paid. No one at Marvel is paying us to say this.
Nope.
This is just passion, and I really want to push engaging in the comics because the amount of discourse I see of people who are playing Rivals or people who are just watching the movies, and I think that we can all come together, and no matter what version of Wanda we love, we can enjoy this comic because I think this comic particularly feels quite accessible if you're a WandaVision stan.
Yeah.
If you watched Wanda in the MCU, this comic feels very accessible. Um, and it's a lot of fun. I think this, and it's got Darcy. Obviously, Darcy's become a WandaVision character, which is so interesting. Obviously, because she started in the Thor universe. But I really, really, really recommend picking this up. And then, if you really like this, then go ahead and grab the old Vision, the Scarlet Witch runs from the 80s, and then Tom King's The Visions, and then just read all the comics, basically. Just go crazy. I have
Uh,
the Marvel Unlimited app. This won't be on the Marvel Unlimited app yet, but everything else we've talked about, so the 2023 run, the Visions, the 80s runs, the 90s, everything within the last that's not in the last 6 months is on the app. So you can. That's how I keep super up to date on everything, and it's how I went through and I did an Eric Williams recap for myself. I just went to the Grim Reaper playlist basically and read his greatest awful hits.
in terms
So I
of
think that's a
yeah, in terms of places to buy this, so I've done a bit of Googling. There's actually a website called comicsshoplocator.com, which I think we'll link to in the show notes. And basically, there's a drop down menu, and you choose your country, you choose your city, and it tells you where your nearest comic book shop is, um, which I think is pretty cool, actually.
yeah.
So it's a way for people to try and seek out comic book shops to go into. Because I legitimately think this is worth owning,
Yeah,
as
it's
a physical
gorgeous.
piece of comic, as a physical piece of media.
I'm subscribed to it through Forbidden Planet, so it'll come to the door, but I've also bought a bunch of variant covers because again, so many of the variant covers for this run are tributes to various famous Scarlet Witch and Vision covers we've seen over the years, which is so much fun and I love to see. And we're getting some of my favorite artists are doing variant covers. But yeah, go and see some of the art people are just on Twitter drawing for this run, and also just our now weekly shout out to the Taskmaster community. I see you. I see you still holding on. I love you guys. Um, but yeah, engage with art and buy comic books, I think is the main takeaway of this episode. But before we go, I do have an ad read to do because we're very professional on this show. So if you love exclusive merch that is not available in the UK, then you can go to the site called Buy. I agreed to be an ambassador for them because I use the service all the time. I buy a lot of my exclusive merch from Japan, so Scarlet Witch merch, or I've recently bought some Labubus from there. They also have, exclusive merch for kind of any fandom you can think of. So that's Godzilla for Nick, or if you're into Snoopy, or my brother's seen some Pokemon stuff on there. It's basically like buying from Vinted, but in Japan. Um, if you want to shop on there, you can use my link, which will be linked in the episode description or in the bio of any of my social media platforms to get 10% off your first purchase. And if you need instructions on how to use the site, I have a couple videos on my page, and I'm always happy to answer questions. And I love hearing what you guys have bought from there. A couple of you have been in my DMs and talked about things that you've purchased from the site, and that always brightens my day. I have another buy haul coming. I always kind of do, because I love buying obscure merch from there. So yeah, 10% off. Thank you, Bai, for being our sponsor. So
Okay.
we'll be back again next week. What's the topic? You have the list.
So our next episode, we're going to cover. So we're going to finally finish the Iron Man 90s series. So we're going to two episodes, one after the other, week by week, where we're going to cover episodes 7 to 13 of season 1 of Iron Man 90s cartoon, and then we're going to just cover the whole of season 2 in one episode, because one does not that much in it, and I not to disparage the 90s Iron Man cartoon, but it's not very good.
No,
Um,
it's so funny. And I want to give a disclaimer. In our last episode, I had been like, this is way less racist than some of the other cartoons, only for it to get mega racist in like some of the next episodes that we watched. So be aware that we know that, and that
yes.
the racism meter will be going up in the next episode. But thank you so much for joining us. And if you need more of us ASAP, you can find me over on Into the Wandaverse on TikTok, The Wandaverse on Instagram and Twitter and most places. And obviously you can catch us on the YouTube channel at Into the Wandaverse.
You can find me on Letterboxd, TikTok at the Film Nick, where I should be doing more things on TikTok.
You
Hannah
said that
keeps.
last week and then
I did.
proceeded to do nothing.
I proceeded to do nothing. I've been busy working. I've yeah, Letterboxd, the Film Nick, if you want to see what I've been watching. My little review of Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning is on there. Hopefully going to go see the new Wes Anderson this week. And yeah, that's it from me.
Thank you so much to the amazing, amazing Lily who did our podcast art. Please go and check out all of her art, because she is always posting the most amazing things. Thank you to Melody Ray Griffiths for the music, and until we see you next time, stay magical.